Imagine waking up one morning to chants of war in your neighborhood. A rebel force has declared war on your government and is killing top political figures in the country. But all the assassinations were against people of a particular ethnic group, one you married from. The brutal nature of the murders sent chills down your spine. Your spouse and kids are already dying from the fear of what will become of them. And you're not even safe because apparently everyone that married from that tribe has been declared a traitor. This is no fiction. This is not some Hollywood movie script. This is a true life story, one that played out in Rwanda.
General Kagame was at the front, preparing his troops for battle.
The Rwandan genocide of 1994 was a planned campaign of mass murder that occurred in Rwanda over 100 days, leading to the death of more than 800,000 people, all of the minority Tutsi population, along with anyone who opposed the genocide. Imagine over 200,000 of your countrymen hunting you down with machetes and assault rifles like a mad dog, all because you belong to a different ethnic group. While I'd love to take you through the story of the Rwandan genocide in a more detailed documentary, I would like to point out that we've lived through similar experiences in Nigeria.
How did these massacres affect you yourself and your closest family?
Oh, everybody here was affected. Practically everybody here had something that touched him.
Following the irresponsibility of the British colonial masters, northern and southern Nigeria were made into one. However, the result of that experiment that culminated in independence in 1960 would soon unravel 6 years down the line, when some mostly young Igbo officers in the Nigerian army took it upon themselves to change the Nigerian government in a coup that led to the death of Nigeria's first prime minister, as well as many senior politicians, many senior army officers and their wives. Even though this coup was aborted thanks to the efforts of another Igbo army officer, the seed was already planted. In the months following the coup, rumors began to spread, noting that 4 of the 5 army majors who planned and carried out the coup were Igbo, and that the general in charge was also an Igbo man. Northerners were immediately thrown into panic mode. To them, their worst fear has come upon them. Now, here's what I mean.
One thing I've noticed, Premier, while I've been here, is that Northerners seem to have, I might almost call it, obsession about the Igbos. Could you perhaps explain that to me?
Well, the Igbos are more or less the type of people whose desire is mainly to dominate everybody. If they go to a village, to a town, they want to monopolize everything in that area. If you put them in a labor camp as a laborer, within a year they will try to emerge as headman of that camp, and so on. Well, in the past, our people were not alive to their responsibilities, because you can see from our northernization policy that in 1952, when I came here, there weren't 10 northerners in our civil service here. Then I tried to have it northernized, and now all important posts are being held by northerners.
That was Ahmedu Bello speaking about the Igbo 2 years before he would be assassinated in the first coup of 1966 by an Igbo military officer. He was still serving as premier of northern Nigeria at the time. With his death and that of many other prominent northern figures, the northerners feared that the Igbo had set out to take control of the country. Well, as we know, the North always remembers.
One of the 2 regional prime ministers who died was the Sardona of Sokoto from the mighty north, and a contributory cause of the rising was his intention to use the army not to crush corruption, but to crush protests against it.
Northern officers began to mobilize in an act of vengeance. They carried out the July 1966 Nigerian counter-coup, in which 240 southern members of the army were systematically killed, many of them Igbo, as well as thousands of civilians of southern origin living in the north. The massacres were reportedly led by the Nigerian army and replicated in various northern Nigerian cities. By the time the pogrom ended, virtually all Igbos of the north were dead, hiding among sympathetic northerners or on their way back to the eastern region, where their brothers were also expelling people of northern descent. But let's pause here for a minute. All this happened about 58 years ago, right? And we have moved on as a nation. We should be talking about national unity and oneness and building the country we all love in peace and harmony, right? Right? Then make this make sense.
Are you stopping people from entering?
What the average northerner needs, somebody who is from the north and who also understands the other parts of Nigeria.
All the Igbos in Lagos, as you wickedly vote for Peter Obi, just pack your load and leave Lagos.
In 2023, we saw clearly how tribalism has eaten deep into the fabric of this nation. People were told that they had a tainted bloodline because they married from a particular tribe. Some were prevented from carrying out their civic duties because they were regarded as strangers, outsiders who had come to, quote, dominate us. But we have to know that this game we are playing is a dangerous one. It has never ended well. There's a little to no difference between these tribal wars and Adolf Hitler's campaign against the Jews. So, if you consider Adolf Hitler a terrible human, who's to say you are not worse if you use your powers in the office to block the appointment of a candidate from a particular ethnic group, all in favor of hiring your own brother? While the systematic ethnic cleansing reportedly happening in parts of Nigeria is to a large extent a struggle for economic control as opposed to Adolf Hitler's urge to exterminate people of a particular ethnicity to preserve his bloodline, we can all agree that evil is still evil, no matter what scale it exists in. A friend of mine who attended the same university with me told me a sad story. A lecturer walked into the classroom and declared they were going to take a test. He ordered them to tear a sheet of paper, and everyone got into it. Nervous and unprepared, they wrote the test. But as it happens sometimes, he and a couple of other students didn't submit it on time, and the lecturer walked away. They ran after him, pleading for him to collect their answer sheets. When the lecturer got into his office, he told them, quote, "If you are a thief man here, come inside. The rest of you can leave." My friend is Idoma. He failed that course and had to carry it over the next year. This happened in Benue State, a state with about 7 ethnic groups, but only one can ever become governor. It is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for, say, an Igede man or woman to ever become governor of Benue State. So why am I part of a state I can't aspire to a political office in? A similar thing happens in all the 36 states of Nigeria. And before you join me in criticizing the politicians now, how about you in your business? If you own a company and there's a job opening, do you look to hire the most qualified, or do you first look within your tribe or clan for someone to employ? It is easy to look at the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari and cry nepotism. It is easy to look at Bela Tinubu and ask, why is he appointing Yoruba people into key positions? But the answer to these questions is more indicting to us, the electorate, than we care to admit. When a Nigerian politician sees the average Nigerian voter, he doesn't see someone who can separate his political choices from his religious and tribal affiliations. He doesn't see a voter who can classify good and bad leaders based on track records. All he's looking at in his mind are a bunch of bigots who can be activated by just a few rhetorics. He's standing there feeling like a puppeteer who can manipulate his puppets to carry out disgraceful acts such as beating up their fellow citizens, stop them from voting, make elections out to be a tribal war, and just about anything to win an election. And since the average Nigerian will pick his tribe, not minding whether the person is evil or not, the job is quite easy for the politicians. Now, consider this. Imagine in Nigeria where we only have states of residence and nothing like states of origin. Imagine in Nigeria where people are hired for a job not because they are from a particular ethnic group, but because they qualify for it. Imagine in Nigeria where political appointments are not based on where you are from, but what you can do. Imagine in Nigeria where the voting population doesn't care where you are from as long as you have what it takes to lead them well. Imagine in Nigeria where people don't support evil because it was done by someone from their tribe. Imagine in Nigeria where good candidates win elections as opposed to candidates with the largest ethnic groups. Can we have such a Nigeria? When you look at me, do you see a Nigerian or someone from Benue? If we can't solve the underlying issues leading to our tribal wars, what gives us the right to cry about racism? What sort of society are we building if we can't agree that there is no good or bad tribe, just good and terrible humans? Allowing politicians to divide us along religious and tribal lines has made it difficult for Nigerians to unite and save the country from our terrible leaders. What good will it serve me if the president is from my state, but ineffective? Don't you think my state will develop more if we had a good leader as opposed to having the president from my ethnic group? Well, I hope that one day we get a Nigeria where everyone realizes that the country will not have a better economy because your tribal person is the president or the governor. I hope that we all get to understand that we can only build a better country if we have good leaders, not minding their ethnicity. And above all, I really do hope that our country doesn't descend into a larger conflict as a result of intolerance and the selfish business of tribalism. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.